Hello everybody and welcome to the Action Figuratorium. My name is Mark Major. I'm a real big toy collector here in Southeast Portland, and today I'm going to be going over not one but two Kickstarters which I would like to tell everybody about. This is not going to be one of those marketing review and analysis though. This is going to be something kind of more akin to like a plug. I'm just going to kind of show you guys what this is, and it's probably going to be kind of short and sweet. This is for a couple of what I'm calling coffee table books on action figures, and the reason I wanted to cover this is because a few of you out there might actually find it kind of interesting and you might want to get these books. Not sure. So everybody come together, strap on the leather for this one, and of course hold on tight. All right, before we begin, what do you guys think of this Cheech and Chong shirt? These are little sombreros instead of stars. Pretty clutch, I think. So these two books, both of them, the reason why I'm kind of covering it today in sort of a catch-all is they cover toy lines from Palitoy. Now, those of you who don't know who Palitoy are, there's a little bit of brief, quick history without Dan Larson yarbling in your ear. Right, Palitoy was, past tense, a British company that did toys in the UK, and one of the things that they would do is they would import a toy line from another toy company and sort of mod it and trick it out and rebrand it and sell it to the UK people. For example, they took Hasbro's G.I. Joe in the 60s and they brought him over to England, but they didn't call him G.I. Joe because that would be ridiculous. That's some American hoo-ha name. No, they called him Action Man. And I know you're thinking like, well, that's pretty cool, but wouldn't Man of Action be better? And I think it probably would be, but they went with Action Man, so we're going to default to that. Fast forward to the 80s and Hasbro's 3.75 G.I. Joe guys. Again, Palitoy takes them, brings them over to the UK, but they don't call them G.I. Joe, no, they call them Action Force. And so what we're going to look at today is essentially what I'm calling a coffee table book, but it's a little bit more than that, and it is on Action Force. Here we go. So this is a campaign being put on by a guy named Baron Ironblood. Now this dude runs a website called Blood for the Baron, and it is a type of archive for the Palitoy's Action Force line from the 80s. And what he is selling, basically, it is one item you can buy, one SKU. There aren't multiple SKUs, it's one SKU. It's 3 books and 2 posters. You're seeing it right here, right? Okay, so in the 80s, they did some Action Force comic books. Some stories first came out in some other kind of, combat sort of, battle comic book. And then Action Force got their own comic books. And then they took the G.I. Joe comic books, but then they kind of changed them so that they were Action Force, right? Well, this is a cat who has worked with a bunch of people now and have produced a few issues of this, what's called Action Force Redo. And Action Force Redo is essentially kind of fan fiction of what happens after that original Action Force comic book line ended. It's like more stories that continue the story. And so this is a repackaging in a graphic novel so that you could sit down and read it, and probably on an airplane. And you could sit down and read this thing from beginning to end like a graphic novel. So the book up here in the upper left corner is his repackaging of these Action Force Redo comic books. Now, the 2 other books that come with it, there's a 140-page source book that takes you kind of, not necessarily novelization form, but it's kind of like a type of a Bible that takes you all the way from the original stories of the Action Force sort of explained to you, all the way up through the redo, okay? And then there's this other book down here, and it's the photo book. Now, this is what I'm claiming is the coffee table book, as it's a 100-page photo book of just the original 80s Action Force toys. And if you scroll up, we see some pictures of the toys. Here they are. This is when they started off being called, the bad guys were called Red Shadows. And then a little bit later, they got sort of morphed into Cobra. So go back up to the top. See, here's the original sort of Action Force guys. And you can, some of you looking at this, you go, oh, there's the Mobat and there's the Vamp and There's the, you know, whatever, that cannon, and I'm sure the ram cycle is probably somewhere. Look, there's the Hiss tank, and there's that terrible snowmobile. And then this, look at this, guys. That's right, Palitoy Action Force. These are the guys who did the original Robo Skull, okay? This is what the original one looked like. Has anyone seen the new one for 250 bucks? I've seen some reviews of it. It looks pretty cool. It looks much more, you know, they redid it. So you can see they took a lot of this G.I. Joe stuff, they painted it black, they called it the SAS, that's the Brits term for their sort of secret agent guys, and here's their Jungle Force, and here's their Q Force, it's their aquatic guys, and here's their Space Force. These are basically people sitting around in a kind of a lobby waiting for an unemployment check. And here's their 1985 AF Action Force. Look at this. This is when they became Cobra. They took all these like Robo Skulls and then they rebranded them as Cobra Robo Skulls. Kind of cool. So this book has got a whole bunch of kind of pictures of that stuff, of the toys with dioramas, etc. I think there's maybe some more pics down here. Don't know. Yeah, here we go. It's like some more shots of the different figures, and look, there's Skeletron, kind of cool. So this is something you guys might be interested in. Look, there's the Robo Skull. Everybody loves this. Everybody loves this. All right, so the other book. Let's move on. Other book. You've seen enough of this. Too much. Anyways, this is $127. 100 pounds, $127, 3 books, and of course there's 2 posters, a big one and a small one. All right, done with my sales pitch. The other toy line that they have a little book for is Star Wars. Now, what you may not know is that Palitoy in late 60s, I think 68, 69 or so, they were purchased by General Mills. Is General Mills an actual military guy? Do you salute him? I don't know. I don't know anything about this General Mills guy. I don't know what army he's in. But General Mills also owned Kenner. Did you know that? Did you know that Kenner was owned by General Mills? That there's some sort of military service involved with being a toy company called Kenner? Well, of course, Palitoy is going to import the Kenner toys into the United Kingdom, especially if they're Star Wars toys, because that is just money you can print. But Palitoy, as you saw with their G.I. Joe import, they didn't just like, you know, take the guys and just scribble over like, oh, his name's not Duke, his name's Monty or whatever, right? They always got to put their spin on it, right? And so this is a book where you get to see sort of the Palitoy version of the packaging and the toys. And of course, everyone should know right now that one of the coolest play sets, Star Wars play sets at that, is this Palitoy Death Star. If you want to see it more in depth, there is a video in which Bobby Valla of the Valaverse, consequently, he now has the trademark for Action Force. By the way, it has run out. No one was using it. He scooped it up, rebranded it on his 1/12 scale military guys, kind of a competitor, a Pepsi as it were, to the Coke of G.I. Joe. But he's got a video in which he shows off one of these Death Stars. He actually builds it in front of you. It's a good way to, like, it's a kind of a, watching him build that, let's be honest, it's kind of a cure for narcolepsy, man. I was sort of, you know, touched down early that night when I saw that. But if you want to see what that looks like, right, this Death Star playset, there it is. And go check that video out. But you can see that it's basically kind of the Kenner stuff, and they sort of like scribble Palitoy over what Kenner was. A little different artwork, I think. Of course, different sort of displays and how they market. And look at this picture here, right? And you get this sort of ad and whatever this weird flying thing is. But then look, somebody put in one of these cheap tropical trees. And, you know, I'm going to do a little bit of plug for my Instagram. It looks a lot like one of my pictures with these cheap tropical trees. And, of course, I've got some sort of AT-RT or AT-AD or so. I don't know what it is, but I painted it, so it's hard to tell. But this is a book that's maybe worth checking out as well. It might be a cool coffee table book. Look, here's the actor who played Darth Vader, and there he is with kissing some sort of space hussy. Don't know what's going on with that. But this, for a single book, is 50 bucks, actually $51. I don't know what the shipping is from the UK. Maybe they'll have a stockpile that they send to the United States, and then from there they can distribute it. Don't know. We'll have to see what happens with it. They have some add-on packs. You can get some postcards and some posters and stuff like that. It's all a bunch of tchotchke stuff. But 50 50 bucks for the book, and you'd be doing okay. So those are kind of the two cool Kickstarters I wanted to just bring to your attention, because they both involve Palitoy. They both involve sort of 80s toys. G.I. Joe and Star Wars, two big dogs in the room. This is kind of a historical, significant thing. You should at least know about it from that perspective. But it's up to you if you want to get something like this. It would be cool to have. It would be cool to have in your place, to have some sort of interesting books of this nature. Anyways, leave it up to you guys. As always, the liking, the subscribing, that is all done on your time, not on my time. But what we all need to do, people, we all need to stay charged, okay?